Well, that was close. Okay, hang on just a second here. Welcome to the Postal Mate webinar, 10 USPS rules you may not know. Now, some of you are going to know a bunch of these, and kudos to you, but some of these might be new or a little bit confusing for you, and we're going to get on with it, okay? And getting started, the first one, drum roll please. It is against federal law to send a non-urgent letter or flat by UPS or FedEx ground delivery. And let's face it, we've all either done it or been tempted to do it. Most of us actually have done it. You know, you have that manila envelope and it's going in town or across town or in the state. And you go, geez, if I send it UPS or FedEx ground, it's going to get there tomorrow. And it's close to the same price or maybe even cheaper than priority mail. Why not do it, right? Did you know that's against the law? Really? So what it is the USPS has a legal monopoly on non-urgent letters. If you don't believe me, and a lot of these things you're going to go, that doesn't make sense, Google it. Google knows everything, right? So Google that. It's a legal monopoly on non-urgent letters. Now, here's the really good news. The post office doesn't really monitor this. They don't want to go after anybody doing this. I suppose if they had somebody who was really violating it, sending out hundreds or thousands of these every day or something like that, then they would go after that one person. But let's face it, on the one-off person, and I'm a rules person, I'm black and white. These are the rules, and I always teach the rules. I try not to teach you the gray stuff. I let you guys figure out the gray stuff. But I will tell you, in my 32 years in this industry, I've never heard of the post office going after anybody that are sending non-urgent letters via UPS or FedEx instead of post office. But I thought it was an interesting way to start the webinar today. Next one up. Oh, look at that. On your webinar pane, you have a handout and it has a cheat sheet on it and it lists the 10 rules we're going to go through. And even better, it cites where you can find these rules or how you can get more information on these rules. Might be handy to have in that one time in a billion that you need to look something like this up. So if you are watching as a recording, please just email support@pcsynergy.com. Do not email me. Please don't email me. I would have to give it to support and then support would have to do it and that just delays it. So email support@pcsynergy.com and ask for the 10 USPS rules cheat sheet number 19212. And we're starting to number these because we have so many. So make sure to ask for 19212, 10 USPS rules cheat sheet. All right, moving right along. First class mail is shape-based mail. So the price for first class mail for letters and flats, and even packages to some extent, but letters and flats in particular, and postcards we'll say, depends on not just weight and not just size, but also the shapes and characteristics of that actual envelope or item. And so you need to be able to assess that. And Postalmate there's a lot of tricks, excuse me, froggy voice. On the left-hand side here, you'll see it's kind of a poor picture, and I apologize for that. This is a template, and it's made of really heavy construction cardboard. Most of you have these in your store, but if your store is newer, you may not have ever seen one of these. And they're kind of hard to get. You can usually buy them online, and they run anywhere between, I'm going to say $5 and $15. It's handy for your store to have one at least and let your employees get familiar with it. But basically what it does is help you to determine if an item is a letter or a flat or a package. See the white slot up just above the packages, that's a 1/4 inch. So for a letter, you have to be able to pass your letter through that slot in thickness. And then the other slot way up high, the big white stripe, is actually an open slot, and that's a 3/4 inch. So for a flat, you have to be able to pass the item through there. But that's not the only characteristics that are needed to apply to make sure an item is a letter or a flat or a package. And so in Postalmate, we have the guidelines there for you, and you need to learn those guidelines. As an owner, you would need to probably memorize these. As an employee, you should learn them and then memorize them and know that they are available in Postalmate as a guideline. So you're going where? Well, up in the upper left corner, you can see we have quick postage up there. On the quick postage screen, the guidelines are found here or here. We have lots of guidelines. And then if you're doing the full rate comparison screen, parcel or document, then that's the lower right corner. And the guidelines are found right down there in the I. So when you click on the guidelines or the I, neat screens pop up that help you. And these are not the only circumstances that have guidelines. But for example, for the guidelines for first class letter or flat, it would look like this. And these list the most common characteristics that you need to know for the letters or flat. But bear in mind, that is not the full list. And you can see under all the circumstances, there's a more info link down there that you click on to go to the DMM, which is the Domestic Mail Manual, to get more information. Some of those are not things you're going to use very often, but they are there. So for example, somebody comes in with wedding envelopes, which all of you have on a regular basis, I imagine. Now, some brides think that, that they're being cute and they get perfectly square wedding invitations, right? Those are not standard letter rate, even if they weigh 1 ounce or less. Those are non-machinable because it has to be rectangular, and square is not rectangular. Only for a flat is square okay, or a non-machinable letter. So I'm going to let you look at those guidelines and learn those, but I wanted you to know where they were in PostalMate for reference. By the way, you cannot upgrade to a package service by just adding more money. It is the characteristic size and weight that determines whether it's a letter, flat, or package service. So it is not an option. Your choice is the actual service, which is called first class. That you get to choose. You do not get to choose if it's a letter, flat, or package. That's determined by its weight and size and characteristics. So if you send a manila flat envelope with 50 pages in it, and it's a 1/2 inch high and it's perfectly fits within flat parameters, and you say, oh, but I want to send it package service so it has tracking, it will go postage due either as a certified mail or as a priority mail. The post office is starting to really crack down on those. Lately, I'm hearing more of those. They let them go for a long time. They're not letting them go anymore. They're catching them pretty regular. And it's a pretty significant charge to the end user if it's not returned. And it's usually not returned. It usually goes through. But the receiver usually gets that $2 or $3 or $4 extra charge on it. So not worth it to try to do that. Now, how do you game the system? How do you cheat the system? Again, I teach in black and white. So I'm going to teach you how to legally change your item from a flat to a package so that you can get that free tracking. And the way you do that is, see on the flat, the last item says it must be of uniform thickness. So bear in mind, a magazine is fine, papers are fine, but anything that's bumpy in there makes it not of uniform thickness and makes it qualify for package service. Of course, you have to pay a little more for package service, but it's very small compared to the cost of adding certified or bumping it up to priority. So to do that, I'm going to recommend that you stick a handful of peanuts in that envelope. Now, not 1, not 2, because that can slide through and it can still get tagged. And let's face it, especially if you're not using the S-shaped peanuts, they get flattened a lot. So if you have a bunch of weight on it, those cup ones especially, or the biodegradable noodles, those kind of get flattened sometimes. So make sure it's a good handful of peanuts and throw it in that flat. That makes it not of uniform thickness. It doesn't really add much to the weight, if any. It's cheap, and it'll make it bump up to the package service in a legal way. Back to my black and white, sorry about that. Next item. Federal law prohibits mailing intoxicating liquors containing 0.5% or more of alcohol. And this can be found in USPS Publication 52, which is a great, man, if you have nothing better to do on a Saturday, read through that. Or if you have trouble going to sleep at night, read through that. But this is where a lot of weird things that can be sent or can't be sent are talked about. For example, scorpions. If you want to send scorpions, the rules are in there. Same thing with bees. All kinds of weird things. So, by the way, not all alcohol is alcohol. And even though it says 0.5%, there are exceptions to these rules. So like cooking alcohol, is okay to be sent. And I think, and I'm not sure because I don't cook with alcohol much and I haven't checked, but I think that's more than 0.5% alcohol. But they exempt cooking alcohol, mouthwash, which has alcohol, and cough syrup, which has alcohol. So kind of the rule of thumb on whether or not it can be shipped, or excuse me, mailed, is if there is a tax on it because it is alcohol by your state. All 50 states tax alcohol. Um, if you buy it in the grocery section, not in the liquor section, but in the regular grocery section, chances are it's taxed the same as any other food product. If you buy it in the liquor section, it's going to have an extra tax on it. I don't know how your state works it. It might already be in the price. It might be additional at checkout. I don't know. But that's kind of the line, dividing line on whether it can be mailed or not mailed. Now, again, this is USPS. We're not talking about other carriers. Other carriers have different rules. For alcohol, for other carriers, you will have to have a special account and special permission. You cannot do it on your FASC account or your ASO account. You cannot send wine or alcohol on your standard ASO or FASC account. You can get a secondary account for wine or alcohol, but there are some things you have to do to apply for that. Okay, next. This one is a sore spot with a lot of stores, especially stores that have been around 25, 30 years. Registered mail is not something that you're allowed to sell in your store. Registered mail is required to be started at your local post office. It must actually be presented to a retail clerk at the post office or rural carrier, and they have to actually round date that registered mail tag on it in order for that to be a legal registered mail. Now, registered mail is used very infrequently. In my 33 years in business, when my 25 years of having stores, I probably had maybe over those years a dozen people that really needed registered mail. And so you will have it, but it's not uncommon for a customer to come into your store and say, can I send registered mail here? And what they really mean is certified mail. And so your answer should be, do you mean certified mail, maybe with a return receipt? And they'll say, yeah, that's it. Okay, so that's usually what they're looking for. They just don't know the right terminology. If they really need registered mail, you need to send those people to the post office. You do not need to take it for them. You do not need to make money on it. This is not a good thing for you. And let me explain to you why. Registered mail is used for when the item is very sensitive in its contents, usually meaning value, but it can be something other than value, but it is like importance. But let's just say it's value. In fact, let's just say it's a box and it has some loose diamonds in it. And you take that registered mail and they insure it for, $9,000, which can be done because registered mail can be insured. Or let's say they don't insure it. Their business insurance is going to cover it or whatever. And you take that and you accept that for your customer, and then you take it to the post office on behalf of your customer. You have already broken the chain of custody from your customer to the end. So now the chain of custody actually starts with you. The problem is, if your customer says, oh my gosh, it got there and the diamonds were missing or one diamond was missing or whatever, they can't do anything with the post office. They can't even argue with the post office. They weren't the customer. You were. It means you're in the middle of a really ugly mess. It's just not worth it. So the cage on the left is registered mail is actually caged and locked, and every mail person that touches that mail has to actually sign off for it. So when it arrives, there is a log of every post office employee that touched that mail piece all the way through, so that there is accountability, and that's called a chain of custody. There is a CMRA rule that was written because retail establishments take mail in, and it's blah, 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 but let's go down to the bottom. The sender, the CMRA customer, that's your customer, must present accountable mail not listed here to the post office for mailing. So you're allowed to mail all these other things, and that's fine, but they're clearly saying for registered mail or anything not listed, the customer, not you, the customer must present it at the post office. I know many of you older stores have been doing this. I just don't recommend it continue. There's a few things for your protection I don't recommend, and this is one of them. As far as packing and registered mail, if you want to do that's fine. I have known post offices that won't accept pre-packed registered mail. They require it to be sealed at the post office, and it's required to be sealed with either paper tape or cloth tape. So if you sell paper tape in your store, maybe from supply side or something, that's great. Sell a roll of paper tape to them and say, just take it to the post office and seal it there in front of them. They usually like to see that. Okay. Prescription drugs. Your store cannot mail prescription medications. End of story. Now you're saying, wait a minute. My mother or my grandmother gets her prescriptions in the mail. I know darn well that prescription drugs can be mailed in the mail. And you're right. You cannot mail them. You actually have to have a pharmaceutical license in order to mail prescription medications. And this is domestic. This is within the 50 states. So internationally, it's even harder. So just do not mail prescription medications. And so this is going to be a change for many of you. Now, this does not apply to UPS and FedEx. In fact, there's no rules prohibiting it from being mailed or shipped, I should say, FedEx or UPS. Just not through the post office. So this may cause some changes. And so I had somebody very clever. You're trying to mess with me. What about prescription cough syrup? Prescription, no. Cough syrup, yes. So if it's prescription cough syrup, the answer is no. If it's over-the-counter cough syrup, the answer is yes. Okay. First class package service options. So about a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, the post office came up with an, and I could be wrong on dates. I'm horrible with dates. It could have been 2 months ago. It could have been 5 years ago, but I'm thinking it was a year or so ago. The post office came out with 2 first class package services, a first class package service and a first class package service retail. Both are options in your postal mate unless you've turned one off, which is an option. I don't recommend turning one off because many of you have turned off the wrong one, or what I would think would be the wrong one. But you have in your postal mate, whether you've got it on or off, you've got 2 options. And so you will see them come up, and you might want any screen that you see that you like. If you don't want to watch this whole thing over, take your phone and take a snapshot of it with your phone, your cell phone, or just do a screenshot if you know how to on your computer. But you will see there's a first class package service, and I've got words in there that I've put in, and you can put words in your time of transit area as well. Instructions are in the cheat sheet, and to distinguish which one is which. So really the difference is in a first class package service, that's for business, intended for business use. It can be used for personal things. It just cannot have a card or letter, personal card or letter in it. It can have an invoice, it can have advertising, it can have documentation for a commercial shipment. All that's fine, but it can't have a card, it can't have a letter, it can't have a post-it note that says, "To Johnny, love grandma." It can't have anything like that because it's not intended for personal use. For personal use, you're supposed to use the first class package service -retail, and that's for the public, so to speak. If you were to go to the post office, only the second one would be available. The first one is only available because you have a commercial account with Indicia. So you're going to want to use mostly the first one because you get a discount. And instead of only going to 13 ounces, it goes to 15.994 ounces. So almost a pound. So you're going to have more options with that first one. And I really like that first one. And you could, if you were really interested, price them both the same and then make more money every time you chose package service, not package service retail. Up to you, but that's an idea. We used to be able to do package service in quick postage, as you are aware. That is not currently an option. We thought we were going to be able to add it back in and talked with Indicia, and it turns out the U.S. Postal Service has prohibited its partners from creating stamps for first class packages. So that at this time, there are post office regulations. It's not Indicia telling you no. It's not Postalmate telling you no. It's the post office telling you no quick postage or Dymo stamps for package services. Cremated remains may only be shipped through USPS Priority Mail Express. Now, some of you have been in business a long time, may recall that I believe that used to have to be sent registered. It does not have to be sent registered any longer. It may be shipped through USPS Priority Mail Express. There is a whole publication devoted just to cremated remains. And so that's going to be USPS publication 139. And if you're going, how do I get these publications? Google. Just enter USPS publication 139, boom, it will pop up. I love Google. So go ahead and check that out. There are going to be some rules on that. That sticker in the upper left is one that you're going to have to apply. So you can order that free from the post office, USPS.com, and get these stickers. And for those of you who are new, you're not going to be sending a lot of cremated remains. It's something that tends to come up once or twice usually. Maybe once or twice every year or two, but not a lot. So don't be thinking that you got to know all the ins and outs of this, but you do need to know where to find it should somebody come in with questions about that. Okay. The last, or not last one, the next one is about opening mail packages. And, you know, we, especially seasoned store owners, might open a package for a couple of reasons. Number one, maybe you are in fear that it may not be packaged well enough. Maybe there's some rattle in it and you feel like, gosh, you know, the customer's left. Maybe I need to open this and add some padding. You know, maybe you have perfectly wonderful intentions that you're going to add a couple handfuls of peanuts just to make it safe with no charge to the customer. You're a great person. If it's a post office thing, don't do it. You're going to have to let it go as it is. Now, if the customer is there and you ask the customer, can I open this to see about the packaging? And they say yes, then you are allowed to do so. Just don't open a mail package without permission. You have every right to open a UPS, a FedEx, or a DHL package with or without permission. It's your store and your account, so you can do that. But for post office, there are rules. And the rule basically is, in best practice, is as soon as an item is considered mail or considered that it's going to be sent mail, then it's considered mail, okay? So as soon as the person says, I want to send this priority mail, it's mail. It doesn't matter that you haven't entered boo in the computer yet. It doesn't matter that there's zero postage on it. If they've said they want to send it priority mail, it's mail. So that's the point of no return, where you don't have permission any longer. And believe me, getting into opening mail is not something you want to do. There's some penalties for that. We don't want you to have any penalties. Worst case scenario, there is jail time. Okay. If you do things with good intentions, you're not going to end up in jail. I don't want to overly scare you. I wanted to let you know, though, that there are some maximum penalties. We have had, on occasion in the industry, some bad guys that buy a store or get involved in a store or become employees of a store with ill intent. And it brings down the whole industry. And it doesn't happen often, thank goodness, but it does happen. And so we want you to be aware of the rules. Retail ground and parcel ground are not the same service. And you might be scratching your head and going, wait a minute, I don't even know for sure what those things are. I think I have parcel select ground, but I don't know what, you know. Okay, so let me explain to this. Most account users or account holders of Indicia do not get offered retail ground, and that's fine. You don't need it. But some accounts, and some older accounts, do have both. There's no advantage really to having both. And Indicia considers you a commercial shipper. Retail ground is designed for the non-commercial shipper. It is available at the post office. So when your customer goes to the post office, they can get retail ground at your establishment. The same level of service would be parcel select ground. And I'm clarifying that it is the same level, it travels the same way, but it has different rules, different rates. And if you had both in your store, especially when you enter dimensions, you're going to see a difference in price. So let's see if I can do this correctly. So as you see here, I've highlighted parcel select ground. And if you look up at the top, it has a dimensional weight of 13 pounds on this less than 1 pound item. But retail ground dimensional weight does not apply. So it goes as weight only. So which means for now, and this is kind of a new change, for now, retail ground is stupidly cheap compared to parcel select ground. This is what I consider a large oversight by the post office. They have a tendency to close those loopholes, but for now, retail ground is a lot cheaper because of dimensional weight not applying. So don't worry about it if you don't offer retail ground. I will be honest with you. If I were a store owner today, not only would I not want to offer retail ground, but parcel select ground would be hidden on my last tab. See that one I have up there on my screen that says less reliable? That's where I would throw it. And I would only select that under certain circumstances. The client says, and you know this customer because he's your customer too, I want whatever's cheapest, right? Okay. It might be going to a post office box. Okay. Then I would select it. It might be going to Hawaii or Alaska. Then I might select it. Or if they're absolutely insistent and I think I will lose the sale unless I get down to a cheaper price, that's when I would select parcel select ground. I would never have it on my front screen. I would never offer it to the customer by me offering it, just saying, oh, we can do it parcel select ground. No, it's a slow service, generally 1 to 4 weeks. And I'm not kidding you. It is 1 to 4 weeks. It's usually within 1 week in a state neighboring you. Across country, it can be 5 to 7 days, but if it's going to Alaska or Hawaii, it can easily take 3 or 4 weeks. So just bear that in mind. I don't like these services. Sometimes we have to offer things we don't particularly like, but we certainly don't have to put it out there front and center and take away from our more premium services like UPS, FedEx, and even Priority Mail. Getting off my bandwagon. Okay, GXG. This is a Karen rule. GXG is an option that comes up in Postal Mate unless you've turned it off. I always recommend that you turn it off. First of all, you can't even process a GXG through Indicia. GXG is called Global Express Guaranteed. Now, here's what you may or may not know about GXG. It's actually a FedEx product. So if you'll look at the envelope provided by the post office, in the upper left, it clearly is a post office product, but in the lower right, it's clearly a FedEx product. And here's what happens. The post office takes a stupid amount of money, and I really mean this stupid, and I'll show you how stupid in a minute, a stupid amount of money for this, and then they pay 1/5 of that to FedEx, hand it to FedEx, and FedEx sends it, and this is for international services, and it goes basically FedEx priority envelope or FedEx priority package. So unless you don't offer UPS, FedEx, or DHL, there is never, ever a reason to use this service. So I would just recommend taking it off your display, and that can be done in service display. If you need assistance with that, just email support@pcsynergy.com. We'll be happy to have a technician help you to remove this from your screen. So I told you I would share with you how stupid this is. So here's an example. If your wholesale, your cost on this, sending a 10-ounce letter to the UK, so to London, England, would cost you $93.72. The exact same service, if you're a FedEx FASC, tier level 2, would cost you $26.58. Why would you pay the post office a premium of almost $70 so that they can hand it to FedEx when you can hand it to FedEx? So GXG, I hate this service with a passion, and I'll tell you why I'm so passionate about this. Because it never fails. Once or twice a year, we'll have some poor person call our support team and say, yeah, I'm trying to do this post office thing, but I keep getting this message that it's not allowed through Indicia, and it's this error right here they're getting. And I'm going, why are you offering this? Well, it came up the best price. Well, then your prices are set weird, and you have not been taught that this is not, do you offer FedEx? Yes, send it FedEx. Okay. So instead of having your employees have to go through this, just get rid of it off your Postmate screen. If I could talk our development team into removing it, I'd do it for you. But Can't do that. If we're offered it, we gotta offer it to you. That's kind of how we feel. Let you make the decisions. All right. Let's see where we are here. I have a bonus coming up. And this is, please don't write this down. It's in the cheat sheet that we gave you. It's going to be some things that you're going to want. The time in transit that I put on the rate comparison screen, this is the instructions on how to get to that. But also rules for international shipping, like what you can ship to what country and what is available to what country and what countries allow insurance and what don't. For example, when you send to the United Kingdom, England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, you cannot insure an item through the post office. I don't know. I mean, there must be a lot of thieves around there, something, I don't know. But anyways, there are some weird rules on what you can and cannot ship. And for post office, that can be found on that international shipping link. Also, APO, FPO. Some APO and FPO have additional restrictions that are not in Postal-Mate. And it is your job to research APO, FPO items that come through. So if you have a soldier's family that comes in and is sending APO, FPO, and they have a 14 cube box and it's full of goodies going to wherever they are, and you take that money, and Postal-Mate's probably going to let you to get the postage for it and send you on its way. You need to research that through this website and make sure that it's okay to send, that the contents are allowed in that area, because it's different contents are allowed depending on where the soldier is stationed. But also, some places have size restrictions. This is particularly true if this soldier is serving on a ship or a submarine. They don't have room sometimes for a 14 cube box. So sometimes there are limitations to I've seen even as small as a flat envelope is as large as you can send to some of these soldiers. And that's going to be found by looking in here. Postal-Mate's not going to keep up to date with all the military changes, because those are military, not postal changes. Those are military changes. Postal-Mate is not going to keep up with that. That's something that you're going to have to do. The last thing I want to talk about, I don't really have a slide for, but it's post office insurance. Because one of the most common errors we get in support and that we're called with is regarding insurance. And there's an error, and I'd like you to kind of either write it down or remember it, but it's error 1066, just like the Battle of Hastings for those history buffs. 1066, you get that from Indicia, and it's telling you have to remove the declared value. Please don't enter a declared value if you have an Indicia account that does not allow you to use post office insurance. This would be true for a RS account or a Indicia preferred account. So if you have either one of those accounts, which I call the super special rate accounts, those are great, and I want you to have those accounts, but just know that you cannot use post office insurance. When you're completing the customs form, you can still enter $1 to get through the customs form. But on the actual CV and DV, your CV, which is called customs value, you can have any amount you want to. I don't care. Make it, $2,100. That's fine, no problem. Under DV, $0. Always put 0 there. Like I said, when you're filling out the customs form, if you want to enter $1 or if you need to enter $1, that's fine. That should not reject it. It's the amount that's actually entered in the DV field that will reject it. And don't think that always your alternate insurance is going to cover you. Your alternate insurance may or may not cover all post office international services. So you would have to look and see if it would. I don't think, I want to say, Shipsurance doesn't cover Priority Mail International, or one of them. I may be misspeaking, I'm sorry. But there are some that aren't covered. There is also Indicia parcel insurance you can buy. You can sign up with Indicia. It's a separate sign up, and that can cover your post office items. So just so you have that. And if whatever Indicia account you have, there is a free amount of coverage that you get, and you don't have to declare anything. You can leave your declared value at 0 and you get that free amount. And that free amount is either $50, or if you're in one of the super premium accounts, it's $100. And on some express services, it's even more. But for priority, it's for Priority Mail International or Priority Mail Domestic, it's going to be $100 for the super saver discount programs like RS and EPP, or $50 if you just commercial base. So those are the ones, and you don't have to enter anything, just leave it blank. Blank is good. And I'm going to get way off topic here because I actually saw it come up this week. Folks, DHL does not have a free $100 of coverage. Okay, so when you're sending DHL, don't just automatically put in $100. If it's a lightweight thing, there will be a charge for coverage on that. So put in the actual amount you need covered. Don't just automatically put in 100. That's a bad habit that we got into in the old days because we could get away with it, but not a good habit for now. Okay, I am going to move forward. Last slide has to do with training that's coming up, and our next training is in just a few weeks. If you have never been to an RS Expo, I have to ask you to consider attending this event. First of all, it's going to be epic. There's some big announcements coming up. But second of all, this is the one place where you can get the most training in this industry. And I always think of people, maybe you're newish in the industry or your store's not doing really well, or you just don't feel like you can afford it or whatever. I have to tell you, you are never going to grow if you don't take advantage of things that are going to help your store grow. And this is one of the biggest, if I could name 3 things that would make your store grow, this is on that list of 3 things. So if you choose not to go and your store is not doing well next year, you're not doing the things you need to do. I know it's hard to do it, but most of you have a lot of money tied up in your store and really need to make it grow. So I really recommend that you do that. PostalMate will be there starting on Wednesday of the week through Sunday, and we'll be offering 20 classes. Each of our classes is 45 minutes long and topic specific, so you can choose which ones you want to go to. Lots of other things, but we encourage you to come. We do repeat a few of the more popular classes in that 20, so but I think we have about 15 different topics, so we'd love to see you there. Also, we will be in September in New York, and that's for a regional event. That's a Saturday, Sunday event, and in Anaheim, again, a Saturday, Sunday event. So we hope to see you at one or more of those events. Now it's time for questions. I'm going to turn the webcam back on because hopefully you haven't had to see my mug until now. And that way I can kind of speak directly to you. Hopefully that shows up. And let me get my big old question and answer pane out here and see if I can make it bigger because I have a lot of comments and questions here. So, holy Hannah. Okay, and yes, Wolfgang, thank you. What is non-urgent? Non-urgent is ground, okay? So when we talk about non-urgent, it's basically ground delivery. If it's anything that's in FedEx Express or UPS air services, that's considered urgent. I don't have an answer for you on quote saver, but because Express handles that, I would say that's probably would be considered urgent. So anything that would be going ground is considered non-urgent. If there's a metal paper clip that holds the papers in the flat envelope, is that considered a flat or a parcel? Generally, that's still a flat. It's usually not bumpy enough to cause, and we all know that it could be. If you get this really monster thick of papers and you try to put a paper clip on it and it turns up, it can be bumpy. Usually that will go through as a flat. But if it's one of those big clamp ones or something and it's real bumpy, then that's considered a parcel. And the item needs to be flexible. My state, and probably your state, sends license plates out in big manila envelopes. They now are supposed to pay, even though I've seen them not, they're supposed to pay parcel prices on mailing those to you instead of flat envelope pricing, because you have to be able to bend it. So think like a magazine. There is an actual test where you put it on the edge of a table and you're supposed to be able to bend it and see if it bends. There's actually a stress test for that. But the idea I want you to take away is if it can bend like a magazine, even a fairly thick magazine, then it should be, that's considered flexible. If it's rigid like a license plate, no. Okay. Okay, got some of these I got. I'm good. Okay, there. I'm glad. We mail prescriptions. Can we mail prescriptions on behalf of a pharmacy? No, absolutely not. Cremains, FedEx, or DHL, I believe that is against their policy. You would have to read their service guide, but I'm quite certain that cremated remains are against UPS, FedEx, and DHL policies. Do they differentiate between human and canine remains? The post office allows both human and pet remains, but other things more exotic, I don't think are supposed to be allowed. But I suppose if a cow is your pet, that would qualify. And I'm sorry. I obviously did a voice in a female employee. You have male employees. Well, I'm sorry. I don't do male voices very well. Okay. Priority flat. Hold on. Okay. So do you have to have your own computer with Postmate software to attend the seminars? No, of course not. You don't have to bring a laptop with Postmate. We do have a number of stores that come to the regionals or to the national event and bring their laptop with Postmate on it. Mostly that's when they have a specific question about something in their data, in which case that would be handy to do. So, I mean, if you're going to make a trip and you like bringing your laptop because you want to watch Netflix at some point, that's fine. We're happy to look at your data on your laptop and answer questions and help you with things on your data. We actually have time to do that. We bring 5 people to the event, and at any one time, 2 of us are teaching, and that leaves 3 of us to be wandering around helping you. And we're at the expo, which is a booth with tables and Postmate going, and you're welcome to come up. We encourage you to come up and ask questions at that time. You can go ahead and stump us. If we don't know the answer, because we aren't all technicians and we aren't all developers, we will try to get somebody or get you in touch with somebody who would have the answer. Believe me, I'm not terribly techie. I know the operations side pretty good, but if you start getting on to me about questions and printers and stuff, I am so lost. Or networking, I can be lost on that too. Okay, so if you have questions about how to get a premium account with Indicia, just email our support team. There's a tech note with the correct website to get that. Jessica's bringing her support cow to Dallas. You know that it is Dallas, so I think that would be okay. Did I get through? Oh, when I noticed the situation yesterday when I chose the gap rate for partial. Okay, so I didn't address that, but it is related, Sid. So I'll bring that up. A first class flat international, if you send that with goods in it, it's going to go with Indicia through what's called GAP, Global something I forgot already. But anyway, it basically is a program that Indicia has that allows you to have a lesser charge than package service for international, but it's more expensive than a flat envelope with papers in it. And it goes to a global processing facility or a mail processing facility. I think it's called a postal processing facility. And there's 5 of them throughout the country. So you might be sending it to Italy, but it's first going to go, and the address on it's going to go to New Jersey or Los Angeles or one of these processing facilities. Don't be panicked by that. It is going to print out a tiny little barcode, and that barcode, they will scan it and they will print the actual label where it's going in Italy or wherever it's going, and customs form based on what you enter in Postmate. It's just basically it's a brokerage house that does the duties on behalf of the post office because the post office doesn't want that duty and doesn't want to offer that service. So they've allowed Indicia to do it on their behalf. So, but here's the thing I want to warn you. Remember, a flat going international has to still have the same characteristics as a flat going domestic, meaning it can't be bumpy, it has to be flexible, it has to be consistent in size, it has to be less than 3/4 of an inch thick. It's very hard to get goods that can be sent flat international. So, I mean, x-rays come to mind. If somebody's had x-rays done and shoves that in an envelope, okay, that's heavy, it's flat, it's flexible. It could qualify. But goods, I mean, I suppose if you have a t-shirt and you fold it perfectly good and you tape it in place so it can't wrinkle and bunch up, and you put it between 2 bendy cardboards, I suppose that would qualify. But in most circumstances, goods are not going to qualify as a flat, domestic, or international. Okay. Oh, hi, Seal. Sorry about that. Okay, let's see. When are the Dymo labels changing? Great question. So I warned you in a previous webinar that the Dymo labels might start changing sideways, printing sideways, and I was afraid that it would happen. at the initial change a few weeks ago. And obviously that did not happen. We have not been given a time when it's going to start printing sideways. We don't know. It may not happen until early 2020 when we have to go to net stamps. So if you didn't see the webinar involved with net stamps, it is available on our website, so you can rewatch that. We are not required at Postalmate to change to net stamps until early 2020. We don't have an exact date yet, but we are, we'll give you as much notice as we can, so that you can purchase the proper stamps. It will require a different label stock than you're currently using, so be sure and don't over order between now and early 2020. It definitely, well, word has it, it will definitely be after the first of the year. So that means you'll have to get through Christmas with your current label stock. If you need to purchase label stock between now and Christmas, you should be able to get it even cheaper than it was before, because there's a whole lot of people that can't use theirs anymore and are trying to unload it. So if you need knockoffs or even not knockoffs, you can probably get some pretty cheap. Okay, let's see, catch my breath here. This was supposed to be a short webinar and it didn't turn out that way. Okay, hopefully I got most of your questions answered. If I didn't, please go ahead and email them to support@pcsynergy.com. I will monitor that email and watch for it and try to help answer. And you will get a recording of this webinar. So if you have employees that had to work while you watched it, then you can have them watch it later on. And by the way, I'm going to try in the future to always do this. If you register for the webinar, I'll send you a link to watch the webinar, and you don't have to go looking for it. So it'll just come to you. So always, if you're interested, always register for the webinar, even if you can't attend. For those of you that did attend, thank you for joining us. Hope that you have a great week. Hope to see you at Dallas or one of our other regional meetings. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.